Hi, I am happy to be here with you. I'm having a little trouble with Facebook Live, so I am hoping that this time it will work. I think it was a problem with Chrome, and we seem to be good. So, so today I'm going to be talking about sacred space, why it's important, and how to create it even in the most unlikely places. So, why is sacred space so important? Sacred space is important because it provides us with a place to get away, a place to feel safe, a place to feel connected, a space to be able to kind of let go and drop into our bodies and relax. And one thing that I've noticed is that we tend to think of sacred space as a place that we tend to make it like it has to be really special, and it has to be this big deal, and it has to be a place that we meditate in, and so forth and so on. And I used to be that way as well. But what's happened over time is that I've recognized that I really love my sacred space, and I have little pockets of sacred space all over my home, and I have sacred space in my workplace, and I create sacred space when I travel. And so one of the things that's really been coming to me lately is how important that is to me and how much it positively affects my energy body. So for example, I have like a major altar in my home, and actually the altar that I have most of my stuff on is the altar that I use the least. It's in a room that I don't go in very often, but it is a place where I love to infuse my altar items with loving energy. So I spend some intentional time over those items, and they're all in this sacred energy. And then what I do is I tend to go to that place and take those items, or the ones I feel drawn to, and I move them into other areas. So we have this one armchair in our house that Scott and I do a lot of work in, a lot of our intuitive work. I do my remote healing sessions there, I do the Sunday night sessions there. And I have set up next to this armchair, there's a stool, and on the stool, it was supposed to be a little table for us to put our glasses on and stuff, and I actually turned it into a little sacred place. And what is great is that every time I do one of the Sunday group healings, I set it up to have the energy of that session in it. I change it out according to my mood. If there's a day that I'm feeling something different, or I have a set number of clients that are kind of dealing with the same thing, I might change the energy of that a little bit. But what also happens is that if I'm feeling like I need to reset or regenerate or gather my strength up, I'll retreat to that armchair, and I'll go there and I'll meditate, or I'll just sit and I'll just be with my sacred objects that are in that place. One thing that is awesome about sacred space is that you can actually do it anywhere that you are. And so this is something that I want to share for those of you who are sensitive and who work in difficult environments, right? A sacred space can actually look like any other space. And some of you might have seen the photo that I shared earlier when I announced this Facebook Live, and I can actually put it in the comments later so you can see it. The reason I chose that photo was because it was a very basic setup. It's a plant. It is a rabbit that was like a little statuette that was actually a piggy bank, but it was a gift from a really dear friend of mine. Rabbit holds sacred energy. It's the energy of creativity and fertility. And then I had a card and a couple mala beads in it. And so the reason I showed that was because it can be very simple. So you could even create something like that on your office space. If you work in a cubicle or in a shared office space, you could have something that's very discreet, but that could be sacred space for you. It could be a plant, it could be a few objects that you treasure, gifts that were from people. If you can manage some gemstones in your office space, but really it can be anything that you want, and it does not even have to look like what somebody would assume a sacred space would look like. And what you want to do with your sacred space, even more or even as important as the objects that you put there, it is really important to put your energy in there. So one thing that I do in all of my sacred spaces, regardless of whether I'm traveling or at home or creating a temporary sacred space somewhere, is that I infuse it with energy. I'll take a few moments to get quiet and close my eyes, open up my heart chakra, open up my crown chakra, and you can do that just with a visualization. Just imagine them opening. And then what I'll do is I'll pull divine energy down through me. And I like to usually imagine it as a golden light, but whatever feels right for you. And you just pull this into your crown, and you let it come down, and you feel it going out your heart chakra and into the space around you. And what happens is you infuse that space with your love, with the love of spirit. You can set any intention for it that you want. So if it's like in an office space, for example, you can imagine that sphere of light around your desk, and you can imagine that it is a loving light. Doreen Virtue uses like a pink light, which I think is perfectly wonderful for this as well, because it's a very loving energy. And you can, she talks about using that around you when you're around people who are in bad moods, and it works. It really works. If you're with somebody who is like really negative and in a bad mood, imagine that you have pink light all around you, and that only high vibrating energy can come in and will help to shift the mood of the other person. But you could do that around your desk, right? So that people can't come in unless they're bringing a positive vibration with them, or one that feels good to you. You can, some people like to use chalk around their desk. You could do it with chalk, but you can also do it just with your intention. And you can actually just with an intention draw that line around your space. And then as you're doing your meditation and bringing that divine light in, you imagine that it is filling and transforming that space to be exactly what you need it to be. And then every time you'll notice, every time you leave your office space or your desk or wherever your sacred space is, you'll notice a shift in energy. And then when you come back to it, you'll notice it as well. So this can be an area where you really get a reset. It doesn't have to be an area where you pray. It doesn't, that's great. I have lots of little sacred spaces where I do pray and where I do meditate and where I do my healing work. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be a sacred space that is for you to feel restored and rejuvenated, where it is for you to feel good and for you to have a place to get away from. So if you're out in the work area and you're an empath and sensitive and it's like so intense, you have your little space to come back to where the energy is infused with your love and divine love and a few objects that you like. Another thing that is really helpful to have there is something that Alicia says, I love my desk and the energy. Her desk is awesome. When you sit down at Alicia's desk, she's got all of her sacred objects out. And so even though she's working there, you sit down there and you feel like, oh, this feels so good. I like to have something that I can hold as well. So on my desk, I have some gemstones. Also, in a lot of places where I sit, I have gemstones. And then if I feel like I need to hold something, like sometimes we need a little bit more than just sitting in the energy. We can actually pick up that gemstone and grab it, and it can help us to ground. Some people that I am close to always have a hematite on them. I like to have kyanite and a small hematite on me, and I usually keep them in my purse in case I need one somewhere. But something that you can anything that sits in a sacred space is going to be infused with the energy of that sacred space. And every time you send it love, every time you send it divine light, you will infuse it with more energy. And so if you pick it up, you're holding it. You're bringing that back to yourself and gifting that back to yourself. So I think that is all I had to say. Does anybody, Lee says yes. I know Lee loves hematite also. Does anybody have any questions about sacred space or how to use it? I am happy to answer. I'll just hang out for a second. I would encourage all of you to try it if you don't have a space already, or even if you do, to try a new space and to see. So funny because, even if I'm in a hotel room, I set something up next to my bed on the little nightstand, and I'll do a meditation right when I get there, and just kind of claim my space. And it really does wonders for setting the intention. Photos are really good too. Photos are great. So photos of people that you love, which would work really well in an office space, right? You could have a plant, some photos of people you love, and a few things that have special meaning to you, and that could create your sacred area. Yeah, and I would love to know more about your sacred spaces, what they mean for you, how you work with them, and also if you try one, to let me know how you like it. And thank you so much. And if you think of a question later, feel free to put it in the comment section here. And I'll actually add in a few photos of different sacred spaces that I have so that you can look at it and see if something resonates with you or might give you ideas. And so, yeah, so thank you so much. Y'all have a great afternoon. Take care. Bye.